Hey, Haley.
Hey, Danny.
What you got there?
I was just reading about the Great Commission.
Yeah,
Could I read it to you?
please.
Perfect. So in Matthew 28, verses 19 through 20, we learn, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I'm with you always, even to the ends of the age."
Wow.
Sometimes it's a lot easier to find your way in the dark when you have a friend like you who's pointing the flashlight. We maybe aren't the sources of the light, but we are carriers of that light. Sometimes it's not our place to shine the flashlight into a face of a friend, but we can tell them what the light has done for us and for you and me. And how has the way of Christ maybe for you, the message of this gospel that we're learning about, led to a different way for you?
Well, that's an important question because the light of Jesus definitely makes things different in our lives. Now, we want to be a part of that, and I think that sometimes in the Christian life we feel like I can't be because maybe we feel like we're not different enough yet. So I know for me, sometimes I thought, oh, well, I can't carry that light until I start doing A, B, C, and D, and I'm a good enough Christian. But there's this really interesting story. It's in Luke chapter 10. I think you've heard of it. Jesus is telling his disciples, he says, all right, I want you to go out. He tells them, I want you to preach, I want you to teach, and I want you to heal. Now, it's interesting, Jesus is saying this like right in the middle of his ministry. He hasn't died yet. He hasn't risen from the dead. He hasn't ascended into heaven. So these disciples, they don't know the rest of the story. Maybe they didn't feel like they were ready to go yet. But Jesus is like, no, you are different enough because you've met Christ. I think that's so cool. And that changes things, right? So it's not just us that we're changed in bigger ways than we thought, but there's also something different about this. We're not carrying something that's good instruction. We're not carrying something that's a good plan. We're not carrying something that's a good set of advice. Instead, what we're carrying is something that's so different. And it's so powerful. One of the things that gets in the way of us wanting to share the gospel is that, well, maybe it won't work. Maybe it'll be like shining a flashlight in somebody's face. But Jesus says, no, I am come to bring you good news. That's what the word gospel means. It's interesting. The gospel does not mean good instruction. The gospel means good news. Literally, that's what the word gospel means. Now, if we were carrying good instruction, that'd be one thing. Good instructions, they're good, they're helpful, but good instructions tell you how to live. But gospel, good news tells us we get to live. That is what we're bringing to people. I'm so excited that that's what we get to bring. Like, it is not about me. It is not what I can make. It is not what I can do. It is simply that Christ has given me a gift that I get to share with all people. And it's good news. And it's amazing how that can really bring people together, which is probably pretty important for a time like this.
It is, and I know I felt so far away, and church is certainly looking a lot different these days. Usually there's thousands, and this year there are thousands. It's just in different places. It can be easy to get stuck in thinking alone is better. We doubt ourselves, thinking there's so many other people out there who could help this other person. We wonder if our light is too dim. I know I'm clumsy and I stumble, and you know that too.
I do too.
So maybe we think that. But do you know who camp is missing out on? Who this church is missing out on? You. Your gifts. You have them. Bring them. God has a fireside truth for us today at camp. Not every king wears a gold crown. Not every camp hero wears a cape. Not every priest wears a white robe. In fact, they look a lot more like you and me because you are a part of the priesthood. When we gather, we get to remember what God has done for us. Whether we come to worship in our living rooms or with the masses, we rehearse what love looks like with one another so that we can go out and bring it into the world. We remain in God's promise as one community, campers, big kids, but most importantly, priests. We shine God's light in the message of Jesus Christ, who brings us together for this world.